Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my changing relationship towards stuff. So I've had some of these realization moments in the past year, 2024's initial no-buy, and I shared some of these. I think they're all in the playlist of my metamorphosis, right? Changing from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and learning these new attitudes towards stuff and consumerism. I think maybe the first one that I had, the first kind of lightning flash moment of realizing that I don't have to have something pretty, or that the aesthetics is not the most important aspect of anything that I own. I think in that video specifically, I was talking about a lipstick and how it just didn't work for me. The product itself didn't work for me, but I was keeping it because the container was so beautiful. And I did actually find a way to repurpose the container without the lipstick, so I am still using it. I do still have it. But this is kind of a deepening of that particular conversation. And again, I confess that I didn't rewatch that video in preparation for this, so I don't know if I'm going to be repeating myself or contradicting myself or all of the above, any of the above. So you can tell me maybe if you remember that or care to look for it now. But let's get back to maybe the beginning of this story of realization and maybe set up the scene. So in January, I did a little bit of traveling for my husband's marathon in Houston and a viola audition. And during these periods of travel, I was reminded that I truly don't need very much. And I did a little facetious unpack with me video where I shared what I actually brought and that I actually didn't even use everything I brought, even for a carry-on only bag and 5 days of travel. And so I realized I had these reminders that I truly don't use most of my stuff, and some of the stuff I have I only use because I have it, and I wouldn't need it if I didn't own it, if that makes sense. So I could get by with much less and still feel like I had an abundance of things. So anyway, I had these periods of travel, these times of very low focus on stuff, lower focuses on my appearance, even how I was presenting myself, what I wanted to show that I cared about by engaging with them, kind of similar to what I was saying in this video here, and extrapolating it a little bit to things like makeup, right? Elaborate makeup looks don't really say anything about you beyond that you care about makeup, and that's something you place priority on. And so you can't really make judgments about a person based on these kind of external things. So anyway, during my travels, I also read the book Spent. I talked about it kind of on a surface level in this video here. I didn't really have any light bulb moments reading that actual book because the story was very different to mine, but I did have an instance where the author was talking about various consumer-related books that she was reading, and she was talking about another book by the author that wrote To Buy or Not to Buy, which is a book that I'm engaging with and committed to keep engaging with over this year and doing the actual journal activities with you here in video form. I already did the first one, kind of exploring the last chapter of that book regarding preventing future relapse, because it was the most necessary one for me to engage with ASAP at that point to prevent any future relapses for me. But I do intend to go chronologically through the book to take everybody on here and myself through that journey to ideally recovery from compulsive shopping habits. So anyway, there's another book by the same author that the author of the book Spent mentioned in her memoir. And I looked up that book. I wasn't intending to necessarily buy it, but I looked for it first on my library app, my local library app, and then I didn't find it on there. When I didn't find it on there, I looked for it online to just see, just maybe be aware of where I could procure it maybe for the future, either after this no-buy or if it was available to thrift. Again, after this no-buy, because one of my stipulations, again, there are no exceptions for no-buy 2025 now, but one of my stipulations was to finish all the books that I had and still have many books to get through before that point comes. So getting back to the point, sorry about the tangents here. I looked up this book, and it turns out that it was only available, I guess it must be out of print, because it was only available for hundreds of dollars. I think it was $115 from one source, and immediately it was just too much, right? My mind immediately dismissed that, because that's too much to be spending on a book that I was just kind of fleeting seemingly interested in, and I would never consider actually buying it. But wait, you know, that got me thinking further, because that knee-jerk reaction probably should be the one that I have for many of the things that I used to buy and bought as recently as January this year. And even before that, you know, November of 2024, with the ludicrously overpriced pants that I've already talked about and won't get too much into. But why was I having that knee-jerk reaction for a book? You know, something that's debatably more valuable. And I wasn't having that for some of the more frivolous things that I know that I truly didn't need, but still wanted anyway. I would never pay that for a book that I was just interested in reading, even if it could add something valuable to my journey here. But I would continue to pay that for clothing and accessories and etc. that I know I objectively don't need. So what gives? I do believe, as a result of this experience actually, that I can get to that point of having a knee-jerk reaction of, oh no, that's more than I would, should, could be spending on anything in any category. I do believe I can recalibrate my relationship towards spending on, let's just say, clothing and makeup. I was also going through a thought pattern recently because you might have seen them in the thumbnail, because I do sometimes still show the subjects of the video, you know, products in a thumbnail, even if I don't flash them around on camera for you these days anymore. So I was engaging with my body lotion. You know, I keep them in my drawer. That's a weird way of putting it, but I saw my tubs of body lotion, and one of them has a pink container and one of them has a white container, and you know, white with a pink lid versus pink with a white lid. And one of them is arguably more aesthetically pleasing. It's also more of an it girl brand. And so is it actually more pleasing, or is it just the brand? I mean, I do think that the shade of pink in question is a little more easy on the eye than the shade of the non-branded one or whatever. And so what I was thinking about doing is that when I finish the aesthetically pleasing one, I was wondering if I should maybe consider decanting the other one into the nicer container. And this got me thinking, why do I even care about the container that my body lotion resides in? Aside from the fact that it's single-use plastic, and I should probably care about how much of that I send to landfill, you know, aside from that, why do I care about the aesthetics of something like a tub of body lotion? Why have I even been conditioned to notice these things or to have a preference? I mean, it's a body lotion, for goodness sakes. It's a functional, utilitarian product. And it's one of those things that should either be doing the job or not. It should probably not be costing as much as the aesthetically packaged one does. And, you know, there might be some variation as far as capabilities and ingredients and scents, but ultimately, we've been conditioned to notice things like aesthetics, to be hyper-focused on these things. When we see bathrooms presented on social media and every product is color-coded, or, you know, the pink girl bathroom, or the whatever, I've disconnected myself from seeing these inputs, and so I'm not really up with what's trending, but I do know that there are bathrooms with walls of color-coded shower scrubs or lotion cabinets, or skincare cabinets rather, with, you know, different, whether it's the same brand or the same color or the same kind of whatever it is, decanted into glass things. I have no idea, but we've been conditioned to be hyper aware of these aesthetics. And even if we're not on short form social media, I do think it's becoming normalized, whether it's through increased marketing or targeted ads or anything else that's become more of a presence in our increasingly technologically dependent society. I do think it's a societal wave, and perhaps some of you can let me know in the comments below, have you been experiencing an increased focus or awareness of, or interest in, the aesthetics of your space, of your stuff, of these areas of consumerism that you would never have considered it before? You know, another thing that comes to mind is, as I think of examples of this, you know, I can pinpoint other areas of my life that could be more aestheticized. And I'm not going to do any of this stuff, but, you know, it's things like your fridge. You could have a container for eggs instead of using the cardboard box. Your tea bags or tea leaves or whatever, you could have a glass jar for instead of having the cardboard box that they come in, or some kind of tin or whatever. You could have a drawer organizer or something like that. You know, like there are products that never existed before to my awareness, or just don't even really need to be made, produced, consumed, that are now normal. And when I was contemplating switching my lotion, from this container to this container after this one's empty, it struck me that this is maybe something that is normal now, but it would have been weird before this kind of behavior, this kind of aesthetic desire was made normal, if that makes sense. And marketing and general societal ideas, I guess, or innovations have told us that if something can be useful and beautiful, then why not make it so, right? Why not have the more beautiful lotion container? Because I can still have a functional product inside there. And ultimately, I haven't finished that lotion yet, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I might end up decanting the lotion and caving to the aesthetic desire to just have the prettier container. And in my case, it's really not about the brand. I don't want to signal that I have a specific brand of lotion, or I don't even want to look like I care about what brand of lotion that I am using. But it's still an option for me to have this shade of pink versus this shade. And it's kind of a silly little choice since I already own both containers, but it did kind of spark this line of thinking, and we'll see what I actually decide to do about it. Happy to report that I actually can't finish the aesthetically pleasing lotion. Well, I'm not happy to report that because it means I'm not actually able to use the product that I purchased, but my husband will, and I am not going to bother decanting the lotion into the lighter pink container. I am not succumbing to the silliness, and I honestly don't even care about it anymore. And the fact that I'm making this video might seem to inflate the seriousness that I was approaching this issue with in my general life. I can assure you that it was a lighthearted line of thinking, and it was not something I was literally obsessing over, although it did make me think about why I even had the fleeting thought about, should I do this? Why do I care about which one looks better when it's literally something in the bathroom drawer that nobody's going to see except me? But I think that idea of if it can be useful and look pretty at the same time has also been mass applied to different categories of things, right? More effort is spent in designing kind of everyday consumable products. More attractive labels might result in more sales. More kind of targeted marketing, even on just everyday foods. And I know marketing has always kind of prioritized these aspects of design that boost sales and boost kind of other values, aesthetic values of, even groceries like beans and pasta. But I guess the difference for me is that we're not really thinking about those things. At least I am still not thinking about those things. The thing with the lotion is that it does signify to me that it could happen that I start thinking about these things in relation to basic human needs like groceries. And that's kind of terrifying to realize, right? If I could be made to care about the color of my lotion container, and again, I'm not saying anybody's forcing me to care about it, but the fact that I've been conditioned by my life experience to prefer a more aesthetic or differently designed, whatever, you may or may not actually agree with me that this one is prettier than this one or whatever, that's beside the point. If I can be conditioned into preferring one design over another to the extent that I would decant this one over here for no utilitarian value, I could probably be conditioned to choose this box of pasta over this one just because of the label on the front. And I do not want to be going down that path. I don't want to be feeding that. I really should probably just use the lotion in the container that it comes with, speaking of it now, because I don't want to feed that impulse within myself. I don't want to go any further down this path where the aesthetic value is worth the inconvenience of decanting a product like that, or choosing a different version just based on the design elements and not the utilitarian values of the product, and in some cases not based on the price of the product. As I speak about this, I do wonder how much of it extrapolates to something like fashion and styling, because in some ways that suggests that I shouldn't be as focused on the silhouettes of my jeans, right? I should be focused on maybe what's more comfortable and functional rather than how they look. And I guess that is kind of in line with most of my recent purchases, where my priority has been on comfort rather than looks, although looks are still a component. So I'm going to save this extrapolation of this topic for another day. And I guess society has always been somewhat image-driven, and so this shouldn't really be a surprise that it's applying to things everywhere, material goods in every aspect of our lives. But I personally don't want to be spending any more brain power on such banalities as the container for my body lotion. And I do think this kind of connects to that knee-jerk reaction of something being too expensive, because it's the same kind of feeling and impulse, right? I don't want to be spending brain power on which container I should be using and how I should preserve the use of the prettier container. I don't want to be debating whether $200 is too expensive for this thing that I don't truly need. It becomes more of the decision of how can I not buy this thing that I don't need, and it doesn't really matter what the price of it is. It's kind of, in a way, me wanting to step back from all of that engagement of what justifies a higher price for anything. And, you know, my category of impulsive buying specifically being clothing, especially clothing. It doesn't matter if it's more sustainably made. It doesn't matter if it's secondhand or resale or thrifted. It doesn't matter if it's a higher end design or natural fibers or materials. And I know not everybody is in this position of truly not needing anything in their wardrobes right now. And so this may or may not apply to you. You still may have to engage with these decisions in order to make a responsible purchase at the time where you need to make the purchase. And again, it's hard to have a kind of arbitrary numerical threshold for what's too expensive, because you could say $50 is okay for something, but then all of a sudden $51 is too much, or $500 and then $501 is too much. Like, it's just a numbers kind of semantics game at that point. And I mean, maybe that is what we need, because it does kind of eliminate the justifications of, oh, well, $501 is okay because they're sustainably made and ethical and natural materials and whatever. Maybe there does need to be a firm numerical semantic-based threshold. And I don't know how to necessarily choose the best number for practical value. I mean, at this point, I'm pretty much a professional overthinker on here. I know there's probably a way to do it in a way that just kind of feels more right, but I guess I'm concerned that my feelings have been warped because my sense of values have been so difficult to actually act on. And so I don't necessarily trust my own judgments right now. I don't think I will feel when it's right, because I've been proven to be, I don't want to say easily manipulated, but perhaps that is what I need to say, you know? I've been proven to be able to be manipulated by all of the forces around me to prefer certain things and to be willing to pay more for certain things. And so ultimately, I do want to get back to that stage of feeling like a certain amount for a certain thing is just simply too much and not worth it, no matter how good the thing is. There were times in my life where even a clothing item that cost $100 would be something where it would be like, that's totally out of reach in your dreams, you know, forget about it. Like, that's not within the realms of possibility. And on some level, of course, if I just didn't have the resources, the wealth, the money, the privilege right now, it would be a non-issue. And I guess the financially responsible thing to do would be to pay savings first and, you know, pay myself so highly that there was nothing left for extras and extras in categories that could be of inflated value. So maybe the solution needs to be actually lowering my yearly budget, you know, the $2,400 that I had, or $200 a month. Maybe it does need to be lowered right down to the bare bones, which is kind of what I did plan on doing when I reintroduced Project No-Buy, is that the new monthly guideline is an absolute hard cap, hard ceiling, and that the goal is actually to spend as little as possible. And so this kind of discussion affirms my desire to lean into that as hard as possible and see how little I can really get away with spending. It's almost like I'm breaking through all the things that I'd set up for No-Buy 2025 in the first iteration of the video, right? The different parameters of success. Like, I don't want to be using different parameters of success anymore. I want to be succeeding with the 100% No-Buy and staying within my budget. You know, that's still important to me. But I don't want to have to fall back on the second circle of success. I want to be within the small, tiny circle. And I want to succeed, okay? Like, I don't want to settle for the second parameter of success. I don't want to have the rule of 5 clothing pieces for February's to February's no-buy, right? I want to have 0. I want to have the 100% total success that I thought I could have in 2024. But anyway, I will continue to keep you updated on whether I can successfully recalibrate myself and start to think that certain things are expensive and start to think that it would be silly to decant different things into prettier containers. And, you know, I've never been extreme on this. I've never bought containers specifically for this purpose, but it was just this moment of already having these containers for this stupid body lotion and just going through this whole process of, okay, like, why do I care about this? Why is this taking up even a video on this channel, right? But as of right now, I mean, it's still a step on this path of rewiring my own personal habits, and so that's why we're talking about it here today. And let me know if there's anything relatable in it for you. I would love to know whether I'm treading down paths that you've already trod down and whether I can achieve the freedom at the end from these silly, socially conditioned ideas of aesthetic value. All right, bye for now, and I will see you in the next one.